The Islanders have a massive opportunity with the first overall pick in the NHL draft, as it is always a privilege to draft first overall. But now the Islanders' opportunity has gotten even better, as the San Jose Sharks are interested in trading from second overall to first overall to draft Mathew Barzal. We're going to break it all down on this episode of Islanders Digest, but really quickly before we do that, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, you want more Islanders content just like this, subscribe, as our goal is 1,000 subscribers before the NHL draft, where as of right now, the Islanders are picking first overall. But as we're going to talk about in this video, that can change, and let's get right into it. David Pagnotta has reported that the Sharks are looking to trade up from second overall to first overall to select defenseman Mathew Barzal, and this makes a lot of sense for the San Jose Sharks. We're going to focus in this video on the Islanders side of things because this is Islanders Digest. However, for those of you who are Sharks fans interested in this, or people who are just interested in what's going to happen with the first round pick in general, I'm trying to be as objective as possible, as I always do in videos talking about trades, on what the Islanders can get and whether or not this makes sense. And for the Sharks side of things, it makes a ton of sense. Not because Barzal is levels above Michael Misa. I do think Barzal is the best prospect in this draft, which is why, if there is no trade, the Islanders should select him first overall. But with the Sharks, Michael Misa is a great player. However, with Celebrini already on the team as your franchise center, the value you are going to get from Misa is just not as great as what you could get with a franchise defenseman in Mathew Barzal. In the sense, you could have a potential franchise defenseman and a franchise center on your team to really build out the rest of your core around. That is an incredible opportunity. And because of that, it makes sense for the Sharks to want to trade for Barzal. The question is, what are they willing to give up? Because the Islanders should not just trade back from this pick to help the Sharks out. Again, Barzal is the best player in this draft, and while I don't think the discrepancy is huge between him and Misa, I do think it is there. We'll talk really quickly about Misa, and I know a lot of Islander fans are actually really excited about Misa, and frankly, they want the Islanders to pick Misa to begin with. And while I don't think Misa will be going first overall, I think it's a really possibility if the Islanders are interested in Michael Misa, or they at least see him as an equal to Barzal, that they trade down and get him instead. And this is no consolation prize. I mean, look at Misa's numbers this year. He really has a solid argument to be first overall himself. I mean, exceptional status, and we don't want to be putting too much emphasis on that because there have been some pretty big duds when it comes to that OHL status. But this year, he really proved he was worth it after kind of stagnating last season in his development, which probably dropped him to around 5 for some scouts. And frankly, that was too low. This year, he put up 62 goals and 72 assists in the OHL for the Saginaw Spirit. That is absolutely ridiculous, basically scoring a goal per game. And this is a player who'd be absolutely incredible for the New York Islanders. And in a trade down situation, you're getting a really good talent who, in some drafts, weaker drafts albeit, could go first overall. Now, because it's the Islanders, you do also have to talk about the X factor in this draft, which is James Hagens. Now, I've said before, it makes no sense for the Islanders to draft James Hagens first overall. If they trade down, then it can be a consideration. Although I do think at 2, you still can't really draft James Hagens before Michael Misa. I think Michael Misa is just that much better of a player. However, I do think Hagens does become more of a conversation topic as opposed to where he is at first overall. I do think he's getting really underrated by a lot of people. While James does not deserve to go first or second overall in this draft, I do think he deserves to go third or at worst fourth. I do also like Porter Martone. He should not be falling any further, and frankly, I do think he is getting some disrespect. I mean, sure, the numbers were not crazy for James Hagens, but 37 points in 37 games in college is still pretty ridiculous and really on par with players like Matty Beniers, who went second overall. So I do think he is getting a lot of hate. Still, the Islanders should not draft Hagens, although I do think it's very worth considering, especially in a situation where the Islanders are trading down with the Sharks. Now, we really have to talk about what this trade would look like, and let me know in the comments what you think a trade for the first overall pick would look like for the Sharks. I'm going to try to be as realistic as possible. The thing is, though, especially if you're a Sharks fan, there is going to have to be some overpayment just because I think the Islanders are set on drafting Mathew Barzal. I mean, we've heard from the press conference, Darsh says he does not want to trade this pick. I think he is set, and you listen to his press conference, he's talking about how he loves speed and he loves a focus on speed and defense. And Schaefer just fits that comparison so well. So I do think you're going to have to overpay for that if you're the Sharks, because I think the Islanders do like Misa. Sorry, they like Schaefer. And then on top of that, you also have to consider this is a first overall pick you're talking about. You don't see a lot of them moved really ever in the NHL. Now, let's really talk about what that's going to look like. For starters, the most obvious piece is the second overall pick, as this is going to be a trade up. Any situation where it's like, oh, Celebrini or this or that, that is absolutely ridiculous. The main piece in this trade is going to be the second overall pick. That's why we talked about Misa and Hagens, because that's basically the main piece the Islanders are getting in this trade. The Sharks are getting Schaefer, and then the Islanders are getting Misa or Hagens, and then something on top of that. And that something is where things get really interesting. I've seen a lot of people talk about the Sharks' other first round pick, and that is from Dallas. I don't think that is enough, at least on its own. You look at Puckpedia; they have pick values for all these picks, and granted, the pick values are not perfect, simply because you don't really know what. I don't think they're really factoring what players are what. For example, I don't think the discrepancy between Schaefer and Misa is 30 points, but that's kind of what you're expecting when it comes to trading for a first overall pick, trading up from a second overall pick. Now, I do think in a trade that Dallas Stars pick is a good starting point. That's the 30th overall pick, I believe, now that Dallas has been eliminated. That alone, though, for Islander fans, it doesn't really get it done for me. I understand it's a second first round pick. You know, you can get a good prospect, but the late draft really is not that exciting. And frankly, for that price, I'd rather just take Schaefer. And let me know, fellow Islander fans, in the comments below, if you'd be willing to do it for a low price like that. Because if you would, I think this trade would almost definitely happen, because I do think the Sharks will offer that. The question is, how much further will they go? We're going to take a closer look at some more of their draft capital. Now, right off the bat, this is their picks for next year. The Sharks are not trading their first round pick next season. I do think that would be pretty ridiculous. Now, if you want to talk about also adding in either their Edmonton pick or say that first from Dallas or two other seconds, then I think this gets really interesting, because at what price, even though those prospects are not as likely to pan out, which is really where the risk comes for the Islanders. If you believe that Schaefer is the most likely to be a franchise player in the NHL, is it worth trading him for 3 late round draft picks who might never come into the NHL? Now, those picks, like every pick really in the NHL, are lottery picks, but with the first overall pick, you have like a 90% chance of getting a big time impact player for the next 10 years, and that does go down pretty significantly with each pick. Now, second overall, you still have a pretty much guarantee to get a big impact player, but again, if you believe Schaefer is better than Misa, then why take the risk when you don't have to? Now, there's one scenario where I do think is really interesting. Like, obviously, the most obvious scenario is the Sharks just try to add up for the value of the Islanders pick, which is 100, by, say, packaging that Oilers pick with the Dallas pick this year. And let me know if you're a Sharks fan, if you think that makes sense for you. For me, with the Islanders, I think the 2 first-round picks, even though they might be 2 late picks, I think that might do it. Although I'm gonna be honest, I don't. It depends on what Darsh and the Islanders scouting staff thinks about Schaefer, because later round picks, you know, they are kind of more of a crapshoot compared to earlier round picks. But one player in the Sharks system, especially considering that Schaefer is a defenseman, that really interests me is Sam Dickinson. Now, Sharks fans, before you attack me in the comments, I'm not saying this is a situation where you trade Sam Dickinson in the second overall pick for Schaefer. I do think that is frankly ridiculous. And if Greer does make that offer for Darsh, he better take it and absolutely run. Well, I guess not run to the podium, because the Sharks would be running to the podium to pick Schaefer, but that would be an absolute steal. But I wonder if perhaps a trade where the Sharks give up Sam Dickinson and the second overall pick would work if the Islanders kind of put their first overall pick and then Colorado's first round pick in next year's draft. I wonder if that could kind of counteract things. I know obviously the Sharks don't want to move on from Sam Dickinson, but if they truly believe that Mathew Schaefer is that much better than Dickinson, I really wonder, and that's definitely something I think would more interest the Islanders in going in another direction, because you'd get a defenseman such as Sam Dickinson, who can, while he will not be Schaefer, and let's be real, I don't think it's really even too fair to compare Sam Dickinson to Schaefer, because I think Schaefer is just on another level. But you got a defenseman who could potentially maybe become a second your second best defenseman on your team, or maybe even your top defenseman on a weaker defensive core. And I think that's a really interesting offer, especially considering when you're getting Sam Dickinson and Michael Misa. I don't believe that would happen, but I really wonder if perhaps something like that could work for both teams. Again, I'm really curious what Sharks fans think about this below, and what Islander fans think. I know a lot of Islander fans frankly just want to pick Misa because they want to see someone with more offense. And if the value's there, say the Islanders could get 2 late picks to draft defensemen on top of Misa, perhaps that works too. I just don't really think it excites me to move off the first overall pick unless there's something substantial. So I'd love to know your thoughts about this in the comments below. As always, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. My name is Patrick Nilan. This is Islanders Digest. Let's go Islanders.